misconception today. And today we are going to be talking about all things AI. So I'm sure everyone has heard these two letters put together at some point or another in 2023. So we thought it was a good idea to see what's in it for me as a marketer. And we have three guests today who are going to help us talk about them. But before we do that, a couple housekeeping, because it's been a couple months since we've had one of these. Please ask questions, put them in the chat. I have Anya and Michelle who are going to be answering all the questions because, doing two things at once is sometimes hard for me. So please, sharing is caring, and ask away. A big thank you to the Solutions Connection who is sponsoring this chat today. Without them, we would be even more broke than we already are, but we are really happy to have them sponsor us to kind of support the community that way. So without further ado, I'm going to leave the floor to Melissa, Miranda, and Peter to introduce themselves. Melissa, how about you start us off?
Sure. My name is Melissa Bell, and I have been in this doing some capacity of marketing for a little over 12 years, and specifically with a company called Venn Technology as the director of marketing for the last 3 years. And by virtue of us already kind of being a small and mighty team, we've been encouraged and excited about some of the stuff coming out around AI. So I'm excited to be here to kind of swap ideas and share what's been working for us with everyone on the call today.
Looking forward to it. I think there's that misconception that AI is only for big firms and stuff like that. So how the small and mighty can use it as well. That'll be great. Miranda, please introduce yourself. First time speaker here at the CMA, so we're very excited to have you.
Thank you. So I'm Miranda. I'm this content specialist here at Technology Management Concepts, also known as TMC. We're a Microsoft partner that specializes in implementing cloud ERP and CRMs. I've been in the marketing industry for about 6 years now and have been in the ERP space for a little bit over a year. I'm a curious by nature, so I'm very excited for this discussion and look forward to learning and hearing more from other experts here about AI. So thank you.
Thank you. And last but definitely not least, Peter, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Thanks, Daniel. My name is Peter Matichek. I'm the founder and CEO of WorkflowX, and we scale video content for modern kind of B2B brands. I've been working in the partner in the Microsoft ecosystem for 15 years. Really excited for this conversation because we as a company have integrated AI into every single workflow we use. And I personally use it like a lot, almost every single day. So I'm really looking forward to this conversation. So thank you for having me.
And any nutrition tips and stuff like that, put them in the chat, and Peter will show us afterwards on how to do that.
Yeah, and it's I double checked it, I fact checked it with other people, and it's spot on. So
very cool.
Yeah,
can't wait to hear more about how you're using AI from a marketing perspective. I guess that leads us into our first question. So Melissa, how have you been using it today? Still very new. So tell us a little bit about how did you start and where you're at today?
Yeah, so two kind of primary ways that we're currently leveraging AI tools are for content generation, net new, but also optimizing existing content. And then we're also using it for levels of analysis and gathering insights. And I think my favorite thing, I always come back to the transcripts, because so much of the way that a lot of us are working or collecting insights from our prospects or partners, customers, the SMEs in our organizations, those conversations are happening on Zoom. You have a transcript, and if you use one or many of those transcripts, they're really powerful in helping you do your job as a marketer better and faster. And so in one very simple example of how we're doing that is, if you have a podcast or a webinar and you've got those transcripts. If you could easily just use one to help you summarize, key points, write an episode description. Again, all of this is human assisted AI. There's always going to, in my opinion, be that need for some editorial oversight. But for those transcripts, that's like the content that you already own. You're not going out to ChatGPT and asking it to write you a blog. You've had the 30-minute interview with the subject matter expert, or you've received 10 hours of calls with prospects from your sales team, and you don't have 10 hours to necessarily listen to all of that. So not only can you use one transcript to get insights from one call, by leveraging all 10 transcripts, you can get insights almost instantaneously. And so we've found some really huge time savings in that. And it's allowed us to go develop the content that we were already going to do, collecting those insights, but much, much faster.
Oh, that's cool. I think that idea of we're not taking away jobs, we're just being able to do things faster so we can kind of gain better insights. And you have better things to do than sit on 10 hours of prospect calls, not jabbing the salespeople. But I think this really helps you get your job going a lot faster. Miranda, how have you guys been using it at TMC?
Yeah, so I actually wanted to add on to Melissa because we do the same thing too. I use it a lot for our case studies. So we do a lot of interviews for our case studies. And like you said, like I would use the transcript from these interviews, plop it into AI tool like ChatGPT, and basically tell it my guidelines, like our target audience, our tone, our personalities, and basically tell it to give me like a rough draft of what that case study will look like. Another thing that I use with it is I do a lot of personal brandings for some of our employees. So in ChatGPT, there's a port on the sidebar, there's like a chat where you can label, whatever that you want with this. So I use the sidebar to label the personality, the person that I'm trying to write the content for. And within each chat, I give it like a guideline for that specific person. So I've been using that to write up content very quickly, especially when I have to, jump on from one personality to the next. So it really helps me write up quick content for each person. So basically I use it for anything from like social media, emails, rephrasing content for old blogs, videos or conversations that I've been having in our meetings. And what else? Just basically just anything that I get stuck on. AI has really helped me like continue that momentum and get my brain going.
But I think that's it. Like I too have been in the channel for 15 years. So Peter, I started when I was 15. But I think that writer's block that really helps you get out of that funk and okay, have a first draft down so you're not staring at that blank screen and stuff like that. That's a cool, okay, first step. It's a first draft, but it's not your final draft. And also I think that was a good tip that you gave with having like every SME has their own personality too, so not everything comes out sounding like yourself or if you wanted to, you can merge them all together. But I think having those different voices for the different people in your company is a good idea, so that you're like, okay, we're segmenting and they're learning on how that person's personality can come out in writing, that you can just finesse afterwards. So Peter, what kind of tools, apps have you been using for in your AI journey to date? What we've talked about ChatGPT, well, you can talk more about that or any others that you like using.
Yeah, for sure. I think chat, it took me the last couple of months to really learn how to use it. I think there's just to be able to really learn it, to ask questions, to set up I've been using a lot now, instead of actually typing, I've been physically voice texting. So I found it the more I give it, the better it gets. And also too, like Miranda said, you save your prompt. So, as I learn the prompt for it, I have specific prompts like here's my BDR email writer, here's my CMO, here's my financial advisor, here's my therapist. So I actually nail all those things in there as it learns. So that's a big one. We internally there's a lot of AI integration into like, let's say, voiceovers. voice over AI has just exploded, helped in marketing to be able to add voices to videos and without the complexity of, saving time and cost, or, hiring kind of, people to the voice stuff. So that's been an incredible, that space is taken off. You can even clone a voice. So if you have a voice that you like in your company, you take an AI can now clone it and you can tweak it. It's just, so it's getting a little bit scary on that part. But that, again, it's just accelerated, we have a lot of changes in video. So that's been a fantastic thing. I think majority of the stuff we're still focusing on the AI for on the chat side, but I've seen it in thumbnail design. I know AI is moving into Canva, right, to help basically say, hey, what are some of the highly converting words if you're losing for imagery stuff. We haven't really got into yet for AI imagery creation. I think that's still, there's a lot of stock footage in it. We haven't started playing in that. But I would say those are the kind of the majority tools that we're using like actively almost on a daily basis.
Oh, that's cool from a video side. When you think it's like the most human thing, you're using it AI the most. So, but
yeah,
we can get or watch one of our previous chats on how much work goes into a video. I think from an AI, by being able to kind of cut that time down of writing the script and getting all those different pieces in, that makes all of us as marketers where video has taken over kind of our daily activities. It's made it a lot.
Yeah. And I think, as you said, it just started with the sheet of paper. Like we did a lot, right? We're like, it's so hard to start with a sheet of paper. And if you have, like Melissa was talking about transcripts or anything, or Miranda was talking about, you put the stuff in there. We're like, hey, even helping executives, like, what do you like talking about? I like talking about, AI, industrializations, or ERPs, or integration between technologies. I'm like, cool, they have a sector. And then you're like, hey, can you help me come up with some topics here? And at least you start something. Like that used to take me 30 minutes with a VP to do that, and I could only do it because I've done it 1,000 times. Now, like, anybody can do it within 10 seconds. Right? That's a huge game changer, and that's just empowered. So that's it's a really cool thing to speed things up and not have to use that mental capacity for on that side to review it. It's a lot easier.
Oh, no, that's cool. And Miranda, what kind of tools have you been using in AI?
So I've been using obviously ChatGPT. Everyone has been using that. It's actually one of my favorites because it has the most user data and it uses my guidelines more accurately to my liking. So that's kind of like my number one. I use Jasper AI to basically rephrase my content and rewrite any content in different ways so I could repurpose it on different platforms. I've tried Bard. I personally don't like it because I used to use it to validate my research, but I found out that the information wasn't very accurate. So I use that very minimally now. And Grammarly AI, I've used it a couple of times. I remember liking it because it would help me identify gaps in my content, and that would really help me clarify or provide more details for my content. And then another one that I've been using that I don't really like is Canva AI. I know Peter kind of mentioned that earlier. I'm curious, do you have any recommendation for other, graphic AI tools?
No, I think you nailed it. I think I was just going to say, like, I don't know. I think just chat's just way ahead of the game, content. So we played with it, but it's nothing realistic. We'll use chat to help us create the content for the graphics, but I haven't seen any tool. Yeah. Like even for storyboarding, it can write storyboards. Yeah.
Oh, okay. I'll try that then.
We've used the Canva one a couple times with taking basically just something in like a Google sheet or, like a spreadsheet, and you've got your content, you pre-design your template and you upload that and it'll generate 52 images if you have 52 different like pieces of content that fit within that specific template. So I think if you have repeatable templates that you're using, particularly for social media, that small piece of Canva AI is helpful. But one other tool I would add, I don't know if y'all have ever run into this issue with length in transcripts, but I utilize Open API, but I still run into, which is ChatGPT. It's just kind of the open source version. but I run into token usage. And so I can't, if an interview runs over an hour. So I've actually started utilizing Anthropic, because you can copy and paste right into the bar and it pulls it in as like a text file and you can run with it. I've had no barriers. In fact, I uploaded an almost 2-hour podcast transcript a couple weeks ago, and it absorbed it very quickly. So that's another one I would kind of throw into the mix for people who are wanting to experiment.
Very cool. And for all those who are frantically taking notes, we will be posting this afterwards. So if you didn't catch all the names of all the tools, no stress. Don't wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning, you're breaking out into a cold sweat. We will be posting it on our website in the upcoming week. So hang on to it there. Anya asked a question if anyone is using originality.ai. Any of you heard of that one? Sorry, Anya. Or if anyone in the community out there listening has heard about it, used it, we can start side conversations. I can't do 2 things at once, but I'm sure everybody else can. So we will continue on with the chat. You guys talked a bit about prompts and how you get it to kind of talk to the results you want. How are you using them? What is the art behind, or a newbie, how would you kind of, what have you learned, and what are the tips you would give to someone for writing and creating new prompts? So Miranda, I'll start with you.
Yeah, so as I mentioned before, I really rely on completing like initial like bullet point outline to always include like the goals, the CTA, keywords, and context such as targeted audience, the tone and brand values, which are already pretty much saved into a document. So I just copy and paste that into AI and then basically tell it to write me the rough draft with the guideline. Obviously, there would be like rounds of back and forth of this. So when that happens, I specify the parts where I want it to fix by giving it further instructions or to how to edit it, or just give it examples of how I want it to sound or like look like. And that normally that gets me a better result when I give them examples. So I would really recommend doing that. And I'll always have like a goal when it comes to writing content and like being very clear and specific when you talk to AI about it. But yeah, so another thing is ask open-ended questions with AI and just have a conversation with it so it can kind of learn like about you and like what you want it to give you. But yeah.
I think it's crazy how what comes around goes around a bit. When we were starting building, let's say case studies was a thing 20 years ago. It was about having a good objective and like asking open-ended questions. It's the same thing. It's not a human, but it learns the same way as a human. So I think those are good prompts to keep in mind when you're trying to teach how you want to portray your company or your content that you want. Melissa, I'm sure you have other things to add and how you've learned about it over the year.
Yeah, I think to simply to let the AI and the technology melt away for a moment and think of these tools and treat them the way that you would a new hire to your team. Specifically within a marketing team, maybe it's a marketing intern that you're imagining or somebody that you would bring in to write content. They need the exact context that Miranda just described. They need to know your ideal customer profile. They need to know what industry. They need to know their pain points. They need to know what the benefits of your solution are and how those match to the product or solution that you're providing in the market. So I think it can feel very overwhelming, and there's a lot of cheat sheets that are floating around on LinkedIn, and I've downloaded them. Full transparency, I've actually never used them. The best way I've learned, and it sounds like everyone on this call has sort of gotten in there and just started playing with the tools. It especially the free ones that are out there, you just start like massaging it. Don't take the first answer that comes to you, but keep thinking about this as what context would that marketing intern or that new hire to the business what context do they need in order to make informed decisions. So within the context of a case study, if your organization has a very specific format and questions that it asks, feed it that, set the parameters around the buyer persona you're trying to reach. And then if you do have capacity, like in the tool, so OpenAI, for example, I can feed it, or Anthropic, you can feed it 10 examples of case studies and give it that structure, and then say, and oh, by the way, here's the transcript. Now go write the case study given all of this context. You would do the same thing if you hired a new person.
Yeah.
So I think that's where it just like keep it simple and think about it like, okay, this is my marketing intern.
Yeah.
That's like crazy and cool at the same time that they really become this tool has become an extension of your team more than just like replacing someone. They're just getting added on to it, because you still need someone to think about this in the background, but at least that intern can be doing something more interesting or learning at the same time, and helps you structure it better. I think that's fabulous. And Peter, what are some of the tips that you have for getting better results when you're doing these things? How have you been able to track it in any way?
Yeah, I was just going to say, I asked it what it needs from me. So I said, hey, this is what I'm trying to do. What do you need from me to help me better, to get my better thing? And it's amazing what it gives me. So then I'm like, okay, I need this and this and this and this and this and this. I'm like, oh, okay, I didn't think of that one. I'm like, and then I also use numbering sequences. So I find sometimes when I communicate with it back and forth, I say, hey, can you number these points? Or before I go to the next version, I will say, hey, we don't need this right now. Can we just focus on this? So sometimes they'll give me, like I was using, I was building OKRs and KPIs for the team and infrastructure. And I said, it was building the kind of the objectives, and it was giving me subtasks. And I said, hey, let's get rid of the subtasks for now. Let's work with these objectives. And then I said, hey, can you give me this list, and can we number it so we can communicate better? And then when I number it, I said, hey, can we reorganize 2 and 7, or can we expand on 2 and 7? And can you do it? So it was like, I think the biggest aha, like Melissa said, it's an intern. I'm like, if you think about it, it was designed on human communication patterns. And the more I kind of treat it like a human and say thank you and please, the better response I get back. I know my dad says that too. My dad's just like, my dad's 87, talks to Alexa, and he's like, I always say please and thank you, because I know they're going to run my life one day. And they're going to remember it. And I was like, that's kind of it. So, I think the more I've given it, and I like really started using, like, I hate writing because it's so slow. So I really started using voice. And sometimes my instructions are like, hey, Chad, how you doing? Hope you're having a good day. So here's what I need from you today. Here's what I'm output, right? Here's like Miranda said, a clear goal. So I want to know, tell me what you need from me. Are you going to be stuck with this one and this one? It's this massive thing. And then, the intern's really fast. 3 seconds later, here you go. And Chat 4, I do use exclusively Chat 4. I don't use Chat 3.5. There's a massive difference in that. I heard that from technical, so I can't wait until Chat 5. I heard rumors they're already thinking about Chat 7. Like, there's going to be another. So I would say ask it. Like, tell me what you need. What are you struggling with? And it's pretty amazing to have that conversation.
Oh, that's cool. And it's true. It really is like, okay, if you're talking about 6 different points, I'm like, time out here, which point are you talking about? So if you say point number 3, we can all follow along, because it can't see what you need to explain it. Melissa, have you been able to put any kind of tracking to this, or do you have any other tips for us? I'm such a newbie. You guys are months ahead of me on this topic. So
yeah, in terms of tracking, so I think anything that you're already doing let's just speak to content. So if you have a baseline, that in general it takes your team or you, say, 8 hours to generate a blog post. We track this right now in Asana. We've got a card for every single piece of content we do, from videos to podcasts to blogs. But you could do this in a Google Sheet or spreadsheet. List your blog, list expected time it takes, and then be sure to come back and put how long it actually took you. So if you have some of those baseline metrics already, then being able to essentially subtract your AI assisted output on that. So if you uploaded a transcript and you generated a blog that would have taken you 8 hours, but it took you an hour because it spit it out in a matter of seconds, but then you massaged it and added your tone and your brand, and you want to do some due diligence there. Again, that AI assisted, the editorial aspect's important. You still saved 7 hours. So if you can start to compare that against your baseline, you have very quick, immediate insight there. Another way that we track it, so essentially AI assisted time to complete minus the estimated manual time it would have taken to complete. So in the example I gave earlier of, I would have had to listen to 10 sales calls at 1 hour a piece. That would have taken me 10 hours plus likely an additional hour to collect insights in a meaningful way to communicate to my team. And then we would be going to do something with it, right? So I know based on the fact it only took me an hour to do that, again, that was feasibly at least 9 or 10 hours worth of savings. So where you don't have metrics, think about how long would that have taken me to get there? And where you do have metrics, subtract, or basically subtract that from what it did take you, kind of in the new AI assisted state.
Yeah, that's cool. There's a question that came in from Christine. You kind of touched about it, but maybe we can go a little deeper. After the content is created, do you go back into it and add some creativity, tone of voice, or nuance to help engage the reader? Straight content can be pretty dry. Definitely can be pretty dry. What are some things that you guys notice that is there anything consistently that you have to kind of zhuzh up to get it a little more to your liking? Anyone can.
I mean, I definitely think kind of the personas helps. It sounds like Miranda and Peter utilize those a lot with their different tabs, and I'm going to take that away for myself. I kind of have all my prompts saved in the notes right now, but in terms of the dryness, ask it to make it witty, ask it to make it personable. Yeah, just like massage it essentially, and you can start there. And then if you do have examples of content that sounds like your brand, if you are writing LinkedIn posts, feed it some of those. Here's an example of the last 5 posts from our brand. This is what I would like it to sound like. Definitely, you probably still need to do a little bit of editing, but that would be my advice.
I think I'm just going to add to that. You can use the custom instructions in ChatGPT before. You can do a global custom instruction to the whole interface. So it's like it says, hey, how would you like ChatGPT know about your responses, how to provide, and how would you like it to respond? So we have that in ours. Like, hey, we're an accelerated video agency. Here's our belief systems. Here's our outcomes. Here's our target audiences. So it knows that on a global level as part of that team. I don't know how effective that is really in terms of it, how to track it, but I think it's another way to, put some customization if you have some brand or tones or voice towards it that you want consistency on it. That would be my one. And Firefly. Anybody use? Sorry, Tanya, you were asking me. I was like, I know there was a tool, the Firefly.ai. Have you used that one, Melissa, for the calls? Yeah,
I just discovered it 2 days ago. Yeah,
my team uses it all the time. I totally blanked on it. So it's for calls. It takes all the transcripts and then it immediately gives weighted who talks more, who talks less. If I'm on the call, I always win that battle. I talk more. And then, but it gives you summaries of the calls and next steps and action items. And so we send that to our clients right after the call. So it kind of automates that. It's called Fireflies.ai. Fireflies.ai. Yeah.
What's interesting about you bringing that up, Peter, is we've actually stood up an AI committee here internally, and just hey, anyone who's interested, we want to open up the conversation with our folks internally, talk about use cases outside of marketing. And one of the things that we consistently come back to is, do we build it basically or customize it ourselves within a tool like OpenAI, or do we go just sign up for a tool like Firefly? We've been tracking down this path of having it ingest all of our calls. And then after every single call, let's say it's a prospect within a specific deal stage, we always want it to basically put in Slack, here's the to-dos, here was the sentiment, here were the question, you know, we always want it to ask these 3 questions depending on what deal stage it's at, so that like our team stays kind of on top of these things. And then we discovered a tool like what you mentioned a couple days ago, and we're going like, maybe this is a better alternative. So there's so many tools coming out all the time.
So many tools. Yeah. And I think about it like when ChatGPT goes to ChatGPT 5, like it's going to go, let's start again, right? Like it's going to be what else? I'm just waiting for it to, you know, clean my kitchen. That's I'm really excited for that.
And we'll be officially in Jetsons era at that point, I guess.
Yes. I want my jetpack.
It's probably not that far off, Peter, from getting you a jetpack.
No,
so.
there is already one. Yeah, it's pretty pricey. Yeah.
Before we derail any further, we're going to take a commercial break here to thank again the Solutions Connection for sponsoring this call today. We really appreciate your support in the community. For those of you who do not know who the Solutions Connection is, they focus on providing a single source directory to drive awareness for partners and users to easily find solutions that could be good for your business. So if you are a VAR or ISV and you have a solution that you want to get out there, please go check out the link that was put in the chat. And for those of you who are in the Microsoft community and will be going to Community Summit next month, the list will have an old school printed version, not old school like it's been dusted off, but so many of us, we've become so paperless that having a physical copy of something is actually kind of nice. So go pick one up, or if you're not going to be there, there's going to be an electronic version as well. So go check them out. And thank you again for keeping our lights on here at the CMA group. So back to you guys now. We've talked a lot about how AI has been good and how it's improved our lives. Where have you seen that AI has not been as ideal of a situation? So maybe Peter, can you kick us off on this one?
It's not good at jokes. I was like, what, you know, I was trying the personal side. I'm like, hey, can you tell me some jokes? Or like, I think that the humor side of it, that's kind of where I was like kind of pushing boundaries on it and trying to figure that out. That's the only one that I learned that it's just really gave me the same jokes over. I'm like, this is lame. They're like, I'm sorry. I'm like, yeah, that's okay. Don't worry about it. You'll get better. So I think that's the one. I think there's I think it's just not funny. Yeah, it's not funny. I know we have that question coming up, you know, in the future of what, you know, people to fear around it. I'm having a hard time, you know, seeing where it's not making an impact, like where it's not helping, right? To just like me, personally, you know, I'm dyslexic. English is my 3rd language, so when it came out, I'm like, I don't have to spell; they can do it for me. You know, which is which. I haven't been able to figure that one out yet. So I don't have too many negatives outside of the jokes that I try to, like, it's not that great, you know, in there. And sometimes it just doesn't listen too well. Sometimes I don't have a hard time. ChatGPT 4 is a little bit better, but I'm like, hey, can you give me a specific word count or specific stuff? Like sometimes when we do videos or animations or that are very specific in terms of time, when we're dealing with like 20 seconds for engagement and conversion times, we're like, look, we need 52 words or we need this time, that it just keeps giving longer and longer. You know, that is maybe one of the drawbacks that I've seen, but otherwise not too many.
And you, Miranda, have you seen anything? I've always said that humor doesn't translate well between when I speak for in English or in French. So I imagine doesn't translate well to computer speak either. But have you noticed anything where you're like, Yeah, no, just old school, do it myself, like for in this task that it makes a difference, or you're like,
I
yeah,
wanted to I wanted to comment on what Peter said about the jokes. I've actually used it to create memes, and it's been giving me like pretty not they're not always good, but then they have
Yeah.
given me some like ideas on like how I can like
Cool.
kind of massage it and like make it my own twist. But yeah, I use it for memes. But like there are some like pretty lame jokes on there. But the one thing that I wouldn't really use it for, I don't know, it might have been better now, but then for research, I still find myself cross-checking. And if I think I was trying to make like a national day like post on social media, and I checked Bard, I checked ChatGPT, and both gave me like very different answers until I checked Google, and that was the right date. So I would really be cautious about researching or relying on AI for accurate research. But other than that, I think your creativity, I feel like there's nothing beats your own brain. So I think you should really, really don't rely on AI for your creativity. So yeah, that's my one recommendation.
Mhm.
I think that it comes like it's interesting that we've been talking about it to like help us create content, but that's such a super important call out that from a research perspective, not so much that it's using it to help us in a specific context. And I think in every case, we're talking like we still need to do that extra, the last 10% or last 20%, that creativity, that je ne sais quoi that gets it over the line, or that secret sauce that you put on it. So no, I think that's super interesting to keep that in mind.
Can I
Melissa,
add something to that?
absolutely.
Um, I think so. I want to double down on the research aspect. Even if you're working with transcripts, I have found that what's happening is it's hallucinating, right? And there's this term about these models hallucinate, and it's exactly what you think. And really, what it's trying to do is it's trying to give you an answer with full confidence. And generally, we believe people. Like, I believe you, Peter, when you say something has worked for you. I believe you, Miranda, right? And so we want in our nature to believe these things. But I used a specific example. I was working with our HR team to understand the questions that they kept answering on calls with candidates, because they were spending way too much time phone screening and not enough time. It was too much time talking about the role and answering those questions than actually spending time with the candidate and like getting to know them as a person. So I pumped in like 3 to 5 transcripts of our HR coordinators' calls. And I started asking it different questions like, what are the top 10 reasons a Salesforce consultant would want to work at Vent Technology? And, I asked it to write me something in particular, like a letter from our company, and it hallucinated 3 different things. We have a company mascot. His name is Bjorn. And within the same chat window, the first prompt, it said that he was the CEO. And the second prompt, it said he was the office dog. And by the third prompt, I kept it going. And then I corrected it after a while because I just thought it was funny. But even if you're working with transcripts, you do still have to be
Yeah.
mindful that it's like might be reaching a little bit to fill in blanks if you don't give it full context.
Yeah, I'm shaking my head. We did a whole bunch of customer testimonials, and I wanted to make snippets, and I wanted to take out specific value points. And I said, do not change, just use this. I'm using you as a tool to help me isolate. And sure enough, I'm like, and then I highlighted it. I'm like, hey, team, go find these, in the edits. And they're like, these don't exist. I'm like, what do you mean? Like, they don't exist in the video. I'm like, holy, it made it up. And and it wasn't that long. Like they weren't really long. They were like 90-second transcripts. And I'm like, these are really good. And I thought when I interviewed, I'm like, oh yeah, she said that. My hallucination in my brain. Sure enough, they're like, no, the team's like, it's not in there. I'm like, so, and that kind of like got me, well, don't humans just naturally make stuff up? So if it was true, like how close is it getting? But totally relate, right? You have to be careful on the hallucination. That's a good point. Yeah. Wow.
I think afterwards we'll ask ChatGPT to put like, okay, so can you give us the top reasons why we should, or you are becoming a human after this call, because we are really seeing all the parallels there, or how to better communicate with your significant other. Maybe I should take some of those as well with me to my next call. We're saying human and like not replacing but adding. Do you see that it can replace certain jobs, or has it replaced certain jobs in your company already, or do you see that coming? Melissa, you talked even about bringing into HR. Where do you see AI taking this in the future?
You know, these models need to be designed and managed by humans. So, and I think we're still pretty far off of, you know, we're working in channels where companies are looking to still automate a lot of their process that they're doing manually. So if they're looking to add a CRM or an ERP, it's unlikely that we're all of a sudden just like all AI and the whole company is run on AI. You still need people to manage, correct, train. Again, think of it like just because you train someone up, they still need to be coached, or, you know, you still need to share information and relevant context with them in order to effectively do their job. So the roles that are going to go away are those ones that are based on purely repetitive tasks, moving data from here to here, hand keying data here to here. And I don't think any one of us on this call is doing what we're doing today because we just like love doing manual entry of anything. So I do think that is, I don't believe that the marketers in particular are going away. If anything, it's just going to help us. It's going to give us the ability to create what we already do faster, which will help us to test our message in the market faster and pivot when it's not working faster. So you can get things out more quickly, and then when you see something's not working, pivot. If you see it's working, double down faster. Go do more of that. And so I think that, you know, and another example, I think we were talking about conferences before we started this call. Like I just yesterday submitted a sponsorship for a conference that I received via an email, and then I had to sign it in PDF and send it back. And like, there's all these things that we still do in our roles today that require manual interference. And then, you know, forget the like actually planning the event and attending the event. Like, you can't replace the human connection. If there's anything we learned through COVID, that human element is not going away. So I don't think we should be concerned. I think that the marketers and every single person on this call today for attending, the sooner that we can learn how to coexist with these tools and leverage these tools to do our jobs better and add more value to the companies in which we work, then you will remain to stand to have a competitive advantage, whatever you're doing.
Word. I'm like, you left me speechless on that one, Melissa. I'm like, wow, that's super well said. Peter, besides, you know, inserting your witty jokes, what else can keep you at your job, or where you think your job will be dispensable in the next version of AI?
Yeah, I think, you know, I think to Melissa's point, I think for sure it's you know, manual labor sucks, like full stop. Like, we shouldn't be doing it. It's just a cognitive, you know, if you look at you know, how much time we can actually spend making decisions in a day. For me, like, I have maybe three-hour blocks of focus time in a week, and that's it. That's like the reality. I've been trying to fight it forever. And so we look at AI going, can we help, you know, accelerate that stuff? And I think for sure, like, let's say, hey, is, you know, a company going to hire a junior writer? Probably not, but that junior writer is going to be a junior AI user. Mm-hmm. Right. So it's going to be like, hey, here's your 15 AI tools. Go do this, ask for help, and give me this. Right. I think that's going to be a huge explosion on it. Now it's like, instead of going, hey, do you have, you know, do you have a degree in writing? It's like, hey, how many AI tools do you use on a regular basis? Right. That would be and I think, so there's a fear of, you know, I think legal, for example, for sure, there's going to be a huge change in legal because it can produce much better legal documents, just amount of content it has. But then again, you're going to say, okay, well, instead of having a, a legal junior person putting these documents together, you're going to have fact checking somebody doing it. It's just the next level. I think there's going to be a massive shift everywhere. I think naturally, I think it's like the printing press. I think it's like going from horses to automobiles. Like it's that much of a shift. But I think it's just going to create so many more other jobs, because there's just going to be so much more possibilities to do it. So I think there's a lot of fear. It's unknown. I think there's a lot of fear. It's like, oh, we're not going to have to think. I think we're going to have to think 10 times more. I think that creativity is now to be able to use it to creatively do it. I'm teaching that to my kids. Even like some of the schools are banning it. And I'm like, I teach my kids, I'm like, use it. If your teacher comes at you and knows it, we'll have a conversation, because they're just afraid of it. It's the wrong way. So I'm like using it, right? My kid's like, hey, is it cheating? I said, well, look, if you have a nail and you got to hammer it in, and you have a rock or a hammer, which one are you going to use? I was like, well, the hammer. I'm like, why? Because it's easier. I'm like, that's exactly it. So I think there'll definitely be change. But I think, Melissa made to the point, it's like, there's so much manual stuff that we do. I'm like, why are we doing this? And I think that's a huge, time saver that's moving into it. Call notes and transcriptions and first draft, that it certainly made my life happier, I would say, right? I would do that.
I think you need to put that on a t-shirt. AI made my life happier.
Happier. Yes, exactly. I switched from beer to AI. It's like, yeah.
And that comes back to you, trying to preserve your age and stuff like that. Let's drinking water.
That's it.
As I digress, for those who haven't started drinking the juice yet from the AI fountain, where do you think people should start? Or how do you think they should get going? Miranda, how would you recommend a newbie getting into the AI world?
I say do your research on different AI tools. Ask yourself what your goal is for what you plan to accomplish with the AI tools. That way you can kind of narrow down your research. There are so many AI tools out there that you don't want to really risk all that time and money on a tool that might not work for you. So you might want to if you're already having like a system that works for you and that's effective, maybe think about what gaps AI can fill in. And a lot of AI tools have trials too, so you can give those a go. But yeah, do your research and just making sure that what goal you plan to have with these AI tools.
Awesome. Melissa? Yeah, sorry, Peter, where would you start if you were recommending to someone to start in the AI world?
Yeah, I think just chat is just a good way to start, and I would just say, just be curious and ask questions. Like Melissa said that too. We said that treat it as like an intro, treat it as like a human, and like I think that is the biggest thing. It's not a search bar, right? It's a different. it's different, and I think that took me personally a while to learn that. And I think that's where it's like, don't just do it. And it doesn't matter what you do. It's like, hey, how do I do this better? How do I don't know, cook a soup from scratch? Like you can literally, it doesn't have to be work related. It can be, I've done a ton of personal stuff, personal development, physical stuff, tons, relationship stuff with my kids even. Like, hey, I have 3 kids. Like, how do I deal with a teenager in this situation? It's really good. So I think that just being able to open that to think differently about it. And then that opens up the mindset going, can we solve this problem? And I think there's going to be a tool, right? Like this layering system of OpenAI, it's almost like the cloud. Like it's the same shift from on-prem to cloud. And I think there's going to be so many explosions that if you're like, I have this problem, I don't know a tool exists, but I guarantee a tool does exist. That's kind of where, so just start being curious.
And Melissa, close us off. I can't believe we're already at the top of the hour. Where do you see AI going in the future? We talked about it a lot, but give us some final Melissa-isms to take us home.
I think in general, these tools are changing how people do search for and consume information. There may not be an immediate shift in how people buy from you, but in how they find you. So right now, I know we've talked about different models. You know, some of these earlier models have basically the entire internet they've consumed. But think about how we open up a Google search bar. There was a statistic when TikTok came out and there was massive adoption. It was an overwhelming statistic. More than 50% of Gen Z used or are using TikTok in the same way that older generations are using Google. So what's not to say that ChatGPT or a similar tool will not be used by younger generations, like Peter's, you know, encouraging his kids to use it, which I think is fantastic, and understand it. But if that is where the shift is going, it will make it a little bit harder for us, I think, initially to attribute maybe how folks are finding us. And so, I mean, that's where like a simple, you know, maybe on the lead form here soon, we'll add ChatGPT to how'd you hear about us? And it could be that as people are starting to understand what tools or solutions exist to fill their gaps or pain points, you know, these tools start to surface your content, right? So I don't think we should stop producing content, but I do think the way in which people find us, our brands, will start to change. And then original content is going to continue to be elevated, you know, so something that like, you know, all of us here on the call are not currently AI bots. And I think that, you know, people will continue to seek out that content that is, and I think search engines like Google will continue to rank some of that stuff a bit higher. But in general, like I think I already said it, the more you can learn how to coexist with these tools and use them, the more of a competitive advantage you'll have as a marketer and a kind of a business professional, or even in your personal life in general. So that would be my few closing remarks.
This has been fabulous, guys. I hope everyone's as excited as I am to re-listen to it, watch it, and hear about all the different tips and tools and things that we can do to really embrace it, because it ain't going anywhere, and how we can really take it to the next level and just better ourselves and our teams with it, and how we can arm ourselves moving forward. I saw there was a little bit of chatter in the chat next with too. Yay team. Glad to see everyone is taking advantage of the community. So please sign up for our next chat on October 26th, 2 p.m. Eastern time, where we're going to be talking about marketing analytics. So something where AI can help, but still a lot of your own noodling goals and objectives that have to get into it. And if you have missed a session, shame on you, but all excuses are valid. Please go to our website. All the recordings are there, including this one. I want to thank you all again, Melissa, Peter, Miranda. It has been an absolute pleasure speaking with you guys today, and looking forward to hearing about if people reach out to you to want to learn more. So thanks again, everyone. Have a good one. Bye now.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.